Assalamu alaikum, friends. Today you're listening to Women's Rights Are Human Rights, and we're your friends, Aisha
and Farida.
And today we have a special guest, Selideth Perez. She is certified midwife in the state of Florida. We will be talking about midwives and home birth. Let's go. Hi, Selideth. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great. Thank you for asking.
Great. Thank you for asking. How you doing?
Good. A little bit tired. We just had a birth recently, so still recovering from no sleep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I hope you can share all the experience with us. That's really what we need to hear from you. And the first question I'm going to have to you, Selideth, is tell us in general who are midwives and what do you guys do?
So the word midwives, when you search for it, you're going to see that it means with women. And even though at the years ago, midwives were seen a little bit different, probably they were not educated and they just formally educated. They did a lot of things, right? And they just received babies and were with mom during their labor. Now today, it's a little bit different because after they were persecuted for a long time and even killed, there were a couple of women that decided to formally educate midwives so that they were able to give prenatal care and care during birth and postpartum also, and keep every family as safe as possible. And nowadays, at least here in the state of Florida where I live, we have licensing and we need to carry insurance and different things that probably in other states or other countries they don't. So midwives here in Florida, we are licensed and we carry for women and care for women who are pregnant, who are low risk patients or clients, and we take care of them during their prenatal. Usually we do their labs, we send their script for their ultrasounds, we verify that they're still low risk and that everything is normal and healthy. So we take care of them through their pregnancy and we do their birth. Usually we do home births, or we have some places that are called birth centers, which is very similar to a home setting. But they have the capacity to see more than one woman there. Usually they have between 2 to 3 rooms where they receive moms and they have their babies. And once they have their babies, like 3 or 4 hours later, they can go home. And then there's 2 different midwives here in Florida. There's what's called the licensed midwife, which is a direct entry. They go directly to study midwifery and they teach everything in school, like from phlebotomy to like medications, like everything, suturing, everything we do it in school. And we have to do more than 80 births to be able to get our license and get tested and everything. And then we have the certified nurse midwives, which are the ones that first are nurses. They first prepare and have formal education for nursing. And then they decide to do midwifery. So they go to school for midwifery. Their case is a little bit different in terms of how many births they need to do and all of that. It's a little bit less because they usually work at a hospital setting. So usually they have an OB that's going to be giving instructions of what to do or not to do in birth. But they're also very good if you're going to be at the hospital. Usually they have some education in terms of like home birth and like non-medicated birth. usually, because it's going to depend in which school they went to. But they're a little bit more medicalized too, because they're at the hospital and they need to follow their protocols and all of that. So in my case, I'm a licensed midwife. Usually I do home births, and if I have a mom that only wants prenatal care, I can do that, and usually educate her and prepare her for that hospital birth if that's what she decides to do finally. So I don't know if that brief tells a little bit about what we midwives do.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. That's really interesting. I didn't know there were two types of midwives actually. So the midwives that go to the hospital, they actually have to listen to the OBGYN, the instructions of the OB, or she can make decisions on her own and kind of like fight for the mom if she wants the natural birth and just prove the OB that, she can have a natural birth in the hospital.
It's gonna depend on the person, on the midwife, because usually at the hospital, even doctors have to follow protocols. Mm-hmm. So it's not only the theme of having an OB telling you this is what we need to do, but also protocols at the hospital. So that makes it harder for them. Mm-hmm. There's some of them that can be a little bit more like fight a little bit for you and like for your rights. Mm-hmm. But not all of them are gonna be willing to do that. So it's gonna depend also in the type of education that nurse had, and like also the things that they have seen. Sometimes when you see cases that are high risk and you see very ugly things happen at the hospital, mm-hmm. sometimes they're very nervous and they just want to do the things how they usually do because they feel safer doing it. Mm-hmm. So it's really going to depend on the case, on what's happening in that case.
Mm-hmm. And you said in your case you were studying the phlebotomy, so I assume that you can also withdraw blood from the client, right? When you visit the mommy at home, what you did for me, right? So you withdraw blood.
Yeah. Usually we do. I usually like to do labs in home and not send the client lab, because for me it's like a pain for the mom to have to go to the lab, wait there, and like be there for hours until they get their blood work. And for me, I like to make the patient's life easier. So I just do it in home, and I have the account to go ahead and send it to the lab. And
mm-hmm. That's what I love you.
We're able to do that here in
because
that's what we did here. So much easier. Like a little princess, mashallah. Look at that.
Yeah, she comes for my visits at home, and she does my lap at home.
Oh my God! I wish I could go back and have her,
Yeah, so we usually do that for the moms, and like we do everything in that case. We usually just we do it here in Florida. I'm not sure if every state can do that. But here, since we have a license and we're legal here, mm-hmm. we have a law that we have to follow. Mm-hmm. We're able to do that, and then we can also usually I have an OB that signs my protocols. So if someone that is low risk has for example, a urinary tract infection, a UTI, mm-hmm. and she needs medication for that, or she has any type of sexually transmitted disease, let's say chlamydia, gonorrhea, and she needs any type of medication for that, things that can be solved easily, then I'm able to go ahead and send her script to the pharmacy, and she can have her medication because I have that OB that says the protocol. So that's another thing that we can do as a provider.
Okay, and so then you can prescribe medication for specific diseases during the pregnancy, right?
Yeah, we can do that. If it's in our protocols, yes, we can do that. And the other thing that we are able to do is send the script for the ultrasounds, and we can suture if you need suturing after you give birth, and it's degree 1 or 2, we're able to do it at home. If it's 3 or 4, which includes your rectum, then we need to transfer to the hospital for that. But that's very rare to see that happen in home. Mm-hmm. Usually it's just 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. And then we're able to carry medications for the birth. For example, I bring oxygen. I bring lidocaine if I need to suture. I'm going to give you lidocaine, which is the medication that we use to it's like an anesthetic. It just helps with pain. Mm-hmm. And then we can give you, for after birth, we can give you, if you need it, some Pitocin to stop the bleeding if you're bleeding too much. So we carry Pitocin, we carry misoprostol, which also we use only after labor, and Methergin if we need it. It's going to depend on the case, but usually those are the things that we bring. That I always say I bring it, but I never want to use it. Okay. We bring in case of an emergency, because labor, again, it's like you never know how that birth can go, but usually we bring that because those are the most common things that we can see. So at the hospital, they also have that same medications. It's the same thing. In our case, we only use it for the things that have to do for bleeding, like Pitocin, misoprostol. We only use that for after birth. At the hospital, they usually use Pitocin during labor to increase contractions and all of that, but we don't do that. We just use it for after labor.
Okay, and just to clarify, those kind of medications only licensed professionals can get, right? It's not over the counter that anybody has access to, right?
Well, if you have, and in my case, like I order for them through my OB who signs my protocols. So let's say that you're a person that are not licensed and don't have people do things and they just get things, like they figure a way to do it. So I have them because I do it that way, because I have a doctor that signs my protocols and I have all the info and we are able to do it. But everyone knows that people always find their way to get medications and to get stuff. So
I see.
That's not the only way. Like you can always figure a way to get medications in maybe in another country or have someone send them to you. Like that could also happen.
I see. Okay. And Selideth, I wanted to ask you also briefly, can you share with mamas like what kind of tests you do when you visit the pregnant mommy at home, like the regular test you do for me, what you usually check?
Yeah. So usually at the initial visit, we do the first set of labs includes a complete blood count, which we are looking into hemoglobin levels, platelet levels, and then we also do all the STDs. I verify also the vitamin D. We verify thyroid. I do a urine culture to make sure that there's no UTI. Sometimes you can have a UTI and have no symptoms, and that could be bad for you, So we try to resolve that early in pregnancy. We do a urinalysis, and basically that's it. All the STDs, meaning HIV, Hep B, Hep C, chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, all those type of things that usually we want to know about them.
Well,
this is all done from home. Like when you come, you will just, the patient is just relaxed and you just go through all of what you have been listed just at home.
Yes, I bring everything. I bring the needles and everything, and everything. Wow. I do the urine.
We just had one needle yesterday, I remember.
So. Like in the community, like in our community, like African community, and a lot of the community that's here, we are very much not informed on home birth at all. And
and I'm not sure like how that works there, but
stereotype of the way it's done sometime back home, an old lady that comes, she doesn't know nothing, and she's the one doing, and the outcome sometimes is not good. So we really think that's how it goes with home birth. But the way you describe it, and I can see the patient, and you know what you're doing, mashallah, it's just beautiful, because that's what every woman needs, actually.
Yeah, and what we're doing is just ruling out any complications, because if I see that a mom has low hemoglobin or has low platelets, I know that the outcome of that labor could be that she has an hemorrhage. We don't want her bleeding too much. But the only way for us to know that is through those labs. So if I see that a mom is having that issue, then I'm going to suggest, hey, don't have a home birth. Let's be at the hospital, because even though I carry medication for too much bleeding, if you need blood, like blood transfusion, then you want to be at the hospital because I can't do that at home. So we usually try to figure all those things out before labor. So that's why I stated at the beginning that we usually only do home births with moms that are low risk. They're healthy, their labs are good, like everything, it's working healthy and normal.
That's what I
And
think.
it's good
Most
to know
of
because there's
the
a lot of
ladies are
women
scared.
that are healthy. You know, a lot of them are healthy, but we have the thing is that we have those stereotype. We still stereotype home birth. A lot of women don't think it's something good. I was very impressed with Aisha when I met her and I knew she was doing home birth. I was like, wow, is that possible? Me coming from Europe, I have never seen, I never experienced, you know, something. Home birth is just back home, like that's where we know, but we know they do that, you know. But
and I understand that there's a lot of countries, like for example, before hospitals, people they could have bad outcomes more often because first of all they were not screened with a lot of the things that we do today, and second we didn't have the commodity that we have today. Like we have clean water in our houses, we have electricity, things that before people didn't have. So that makes it a little bit harder, right, to give birth at home because, yeah, sometimes we need clean water. Yeah, sometimes we need electricity and stuff like that that are going to help us, like help with the entire birth. And it's helpful because that makes it different than years ago. And the other thing is, like, if we have a complication that we did not know it was going to happen, then we can always transfer to the hospital. And usually one of the things that we ask moms is if they have 30-minute away hospital, not more than that. So a mom shouldn't be more than 30 minutes away from a hospital that has labor and delivery. So that's one of the requisites when we're going to do a home birth also. And it's not because I want it. It also is stated in the law. So all of those things are important, and we take in consideration when we're going to do a home birth. So not necessarily everyone is going to be, good to have a home birth.
It's beautiful. We should just now, I think we should just push it like it's good. Home birth is the thing to be, it's the way to go, I think, for most of the women. Of course, there are always exceptions in everything, but it's something that we should bring back and push because a lot of women need it, but they're just afraid. They have those stereotypes in their mind. From what you explain, I see it's very professional. It's everything at your advantage as a patient, as a woman, as a mom. You just relax and you have it done at your, it's beautiful because I was so stressed out when I get my last baby. So stressed out. I wish that to anyone. Like nobody. It was, I say anyone, to nobody. But it was really like, even to find a good doctors, it was, oh no, it was too much. So just knowing there is this alternative where you can just relax and have somebody and it's professional. Because we still have stereotype. We think if it's not hospital, then it's not good, We associate that with whatever is going on in back home or in the countries where, things are not done the right way. So we associate that with that. So we think, oh, home birth. Oh, no, home birth, no. You see? But it's actually, it's all in our favor, actually.
Okay, and I wanted to also add up that besides all the medical records, what you check, you also remember you check my baby's heartbeat, and remember how yesterday he was kicking you?
Yeah. So every time that we come and see a mom, we also are going to do vitals on mom, verify her blood pressure. We're also going to verify how much baby is measuring. Like we have different things that we do to check on baby. We listen to baby's heartbeat. We check position of baby. We verify pulse of mom, temperature, just regular what we call triage, like blood pressure and vitals of mom, and then we listen to baby and just make sure that both of them are still doing normal and healthy. So that's the fun part of the visit, listening to baby and see what baby's doing in there and imagining position of baby and all of that. So we usually know because we feel like where's head at, where's butt at, and all of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And last time you were visiting me, you remember we were talking about these people who call themselves birth keepers? And yeah, these are non-midwives you mentioned. And I wanted to tell me a little bit more, like, how would people understand the difference between a licensed midwife and a so-called birth keepers?
So yeah, I think that this has a lot to do with education. Like, some people just, that it's like this person, it's they all call them, if they're doing a home birth, then they're all the same. No, not necessarily. The other day I was at a birth, and a woman was there. She's from Ecuador, and she was there visiting her sister, and she was gonna be there helping her for after labor. And at one point we were talking, and she looks at me and she said, "I had never thought that a midwife would look like you look." And I was like, that was so funny, because I'm like, what were you imagining? Like, you have this concept of this person, and I'm just a normal, regular person. I have my husband, I have my kids, I have the same struggles as everyone. It's like, I'm a normal person. I'm just working with pregnant people and pregnant moms and catching babies. I don't call it delivering baby, because I don't deliver babies. I just catch them. And it's like this concept. So one of the things that is going to help people understand that there's different type of licensing and all of that. It's like, I'm talking from Florida, because each country is different and each state is different. So in Florida, we have, as I said, licensed midwives, and then and we also have certified nurse midwives. But there's also a word that we hear a lot, and that people think that it's the same, and it's doulas, DOULA. So doulas usually are this person that comes and helps with pain, and it's like a support person for the family, for the dad, for the mom. It's there, like, helping out with pain, giving her maybe some massage, putting pressure on her hips, helping her move around, and just, it's like this person that is going to support you and help you, and maybe help your partner figure out how to help you, because sometimes partners don't even know what to do. They don't know where to hold you, if they should touch you, if they shouldn't, or if they're talking too much, she would be like, okay, you can now be quiet and, like, let this woman do what she's doing. Like, that type of person that's going to be there, like, helping and supporting you, and also helping you postpartum. Even though as a midwife, I've helped moms if they have any latching situation there, where I usually, before I go, I make is breastfeeding if she wants to breastfeed. So before I go, I make sure that baby's breastfeeding. But doulas also help with breastfeeding, with childbirth education. They help a lot, but they're not there medically speaking. So in case that mom's needs suturing, she's not there to suture you. If the mom needs medication because of too much bleeding, she's not there for that. She's not there to listen to your baby and figure out if that baby's heartbeat is normal or not, or if you need oxygen. Like, that person is just there for support,
mental support.
So one
right?
of the mental, physical, like, just helping you around, and like, and I love doulas that stay in their scope of practice, that they understand that I'm here to support this mom. So we have these other people that don't understand the difference between a doula and a midwife. So I don't know if I was clear about it, but I think it's pretty easy to understand that a person is there for support, and the other one is going to be there medically speaking. So sometimes I tell moms, hey, if you haven't had a home birth, and I really understand that you need a midwife, but you also need a doula. There's two different things that we do. I can't doula you and midwife you. I can't, because I'm only one, and it's a lot. I'm there to make sure that you're healthy and that your baby's healthy, and that you're physically and emotionally also safe, because I don't want to be there and you, like, your mind is like, and you're going crazy. So I don't want that either. But that person's going to support you, to doula. But then we have these people that don't understand that that's our work as midwives and doulas. And then some doulas can say, oh, I'm going to be a birth keeper, or not even a doula. Sometimes they're not even doulas. They're just calling themselves birth keepers, saying that they're there to make sure that that they support. Sometimes moms don't want anyone around or don't want anyone telling them what to do, and they just want to be left alone. Mm-hmm. And they have the concept that a midwife is going to be there telling them what to do. And I always make that clear, at least in my case. I'm there to make sure that you're healthy and your baby's healthy. But usually I don't intervene doing anything on you. I just let you do your thing. The only way I'm going to intervene is because I'm seeing something that is not normal, and that's going to require, because you have me there for that, you know? Mm-hmm. And if you need sutures later on, then I'm there. I can do that. I can make sure that you do everything. I can make sure that my instruments are sterilized. That's another thing. Like, you don't want to have a provider that comes to your house and that has instruments that has not been sterilized. You know, that those type of things are important. And the only way that you understand and you know that is when you get some education in terms of that. Like, okay, this could be the possibility of infections that you can get. So let's make sure that we're doing things correctly, you know? Mm-hmm. So birth keepers, for me, like we're struggling with the theme, because sometimes people say, I haven't been able to find a provider, an OB that's going to respect my desires. So I'm just going to stay home and have a birth keeper with me. And I'm like, everyone decides what they want to do. If we want to have a birth keeper, but just make sure that that person is really not telling you that they're going to do something for you that they're not educated in, and that they're not licensed in. Because here in Florida, if you're not licensed to be a midwife and you're practicing how a midwife practices, and you're taking blood pressure on a mom, and you're saying that you're going to suture if you need suturing, and you only had one class of suturing, and you're there and you're going to say that you're going to do a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after C-section, but you have no education in terms of what can happen. What we've been seeing is that they don't make the action that they need to do because they don't know. They just think that everything is going to be fine. And then they're transferring these moms to the hospital. And then the hospital can think that us midwives are the ones sending that mom to the hospital. But no, this person didn't have any prenatal care as we do, and all the things that we have stated already. And these emergencies happen, and it's like, it's not good, because we as midwife have to carry insurance. Like, if anything happens, like, we have insurance for that. And these birth keepers, they usually don't have nothing. They don't have insurance in case something happens to your baby or to you as a mom. They don't have licensing. They don't have anything. And I think it's disrespectful, because if you're going to do that, then tell the patient, hey, I'm not licensed. In case anything happens, I don't have any insurance. I don't carry any insurance. I don't have any formal education, and just be clear about it, and that the patient knows, hey, I'm just going into this, and I know that this person doesn't have the education and the preparation that maybe you have, and I just want to do it with you because I want to do it. If it's that way, then I'm okay with it. Okay, like, everyone decides what they want to do. Some people do. That's another thing. Some people say, I'm going to do an unassisted birth, which is, if it's an unassisted birth, you shouldn't have anyone there, right? If you're going to do an unassisted birth, like, you shouldn't have any doula, because you're doing unassisted. You shouldn't have any birth keeper because you're doing unassisted birth, right? You shouldn't have anyone there that you're paying to that.
To clarify, an assistant, that means like just the mom is by herself and she's catching the baby herself?
Yeah, unassisted is like, that's what it's supposed to be. Like, if you tell me, Sally, I'm going to do an unassisted birth, then you're going to do an unassisted birth. I'm not going to be there. Mm-hmm. Like, no doula's going to be there. No birth keeper in you know, with punctuation marks around it. Mm-hmm. Like, no person is going to be there taking care of you because you decided to have an unassisted. You can have the father of the baby if you want, or you can have like someone there that is not a paid person who's there to take care of you medically, you know? That's an unassisted birth. And if you want to do that, fine. Everyone does what they want to do, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't want to pay a provider and you want to do it yourself, and you're sure that you're healthy and you want to go for it, and that's the way that you want to go, then fine. But don't tell me, okay, it's an unassisted birth, but I'm going to call this person to suture me. In case of like, no, like if you're going to have that someone there that's going to do those things, don't call it unassisted. It's not unassisted.
I understand. So I am thinking now how to help mamas to distinguish between the licensed midwife and a birth keeper, because people sometimes they lie. They might say, "Oh, I'm a midwife," but they're actually a birth keeper. So when I was thinking about this issue, and first the mom can ask questions at the initial visit. To see what kind of services they provide, if they do the labs, if they send the labs on your behalf, or they're gonna send you to the office. All the things that you listed at the beginning of the podcast. All the services that you offered for the mom at the house, and all the vitals check and everything. And the second thing, what we could do is we could pull up on Google local Department of Health, and on Department of Health is always going to be a provider directory where you can enter the license number for the licensed midwife, and any midwife who is licensed, they're going to have a document showing their license number. So you can search that midwife on the Department of Health by the license number and see if she is actually licensed. So if she's licensed, then that means that she is a licensed midwife. And if she doesn't have the document or the license number or insurance, like you mentioned, that means that person is underqualified, doesn't have a proper education, and some complications might happen during your labor, like you said, that could lead to transfer to the hospital in emergency cases, correct?
Yeah, and usually if I'm going to transfer a mom to the hospital, or even moms that tell me, hey, I just want the prenatal care. So if it's or a transfer, like an intrapartum transfer, just we're in the birth and we need to transfer, I always call the hospital. I identify myself. I tell them the case, like this is a planned hospital birth or a planned home birth. I'm sending in this client and give them the info, and I send them a fax with all the prenatal care and like with everything that we have done on that client. And that's important because, again, if it's a birth keeper, that person's not going to send anything to the hospital. You're going to get to the hospital and you're not going to have anything because she doesn't do anything. It's just being there. So like, if you want to do an unassisted birth, then yes, you get to the hospital and you're going to say, hey, I was doing a home birth by myself. Like I didn't have any provider there, and that's different. But I have an issue with the thing of birth keepers because first of all, they're billing that person. They're asking for payment. So they're going to get paid, but they're not how can you say this in a nice way?
Providing the services that are required for the home.
Not only that, but they don't have like, when you know that your license is in game, you're going to do things right because you know that that's your life. That's your business. Like you're going to make sure that you're doing things well, and you want to make sure that mom is healthy, and you have the education to identify some things. And not that, because I really don't know, like maybe that birth keeper has some education, like formal education in another state, let's say. She can have that formal education, but not necessarily she's going to be understanding the law here in Florida, how we work here, like what is our scope of practice. And it's important that because we want to make sure that we're doing things as we're supposed to do them, even though in other countries you do them differently. The law here in Florida has a reason, right? And even though there are things that maybe we're not totally on the same page with the law, but we try to stay there in the scope of practice to really make sure that we are taking care of moms the best way possible. And we can always discuss with the mom. I like to talk with the mom. Hey, this is what the law says. This is what I've seen. These are the consequences. Like, you decide what you want. But with all the information that you need before you make that decision.
Yeah, I like that approach. I like, to inform a person, like a pregnant mama, of all the consequences and laws and the people. So people, when they're informed, they can make a decision for themselves rather than, versus when you come to the hospital and they make you do what they want you to do. Like, it feels like you're not making any decision for your birth, but rather somebody else is deciding for you what you have and what you haven't shouldn't do.
Exactly. And not necessarily that the protocols that they have at the hospital are done or are written in benefit of the patient. A lot of times protocols are written and stated for the benefit of the hospital or the profit of the hospital, and not necessarily thinking of the patient. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from a person that used to work at a hospital setting. I used to work in Puerto Rico in a hospital in the area of anesthesiology. So I know how things work. I know how financially things work at the hospital, and protocols not necessarily are going to be written to help the client. Usually they're there for them making sure that they don't get sued, or for them making sure that they can get the biggest amount of money, and that's how it works. It's sad, but it's how it works here in the United States.
Sounds like a business to me, yeah. So, Farida, you had several questions to Selideth too from your side. Go ahead.
Yes. I just wanted to say, yes, it's really relevant, the point she made, and it's really clarifying a lot for women to understand what the steps are, what's the differences, what they should pay attention to, but home birth is the best. Seriously, we should, as a mom, I have already my 2 kids. If I could go back and have someone like the sister, oh my God, I will have done that. You are blessed to have her, I'm telling you, because she knows exactly what she's talking about, and it seems she has experience, and that's what we want as women. And we should advocate for our girls for these midwives, to have more midwives to help, because a lot of women are traumatized out there. They can't even talk about it. It's a real taboo. We go to the hospital, whatever happened, we come back home with a baby, and we have postpartum, and we're struggling with depression, and nobody knows what is it's just a taboo still. Women has hard time to open it up on those journey that they of them. But we really I feel like the society is growing so this is modern so fast, and like you say, the corporation has not always the best interest of the woman, and we need to understand that, and we need to step up and do things. And midwives like sister said, that is like, mashallah, they're doing a great job on the ground. They know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about. This is like we should advertise those ladies, really, because we need more and more of you. The problem is that there's not too much of you. Mm-hmm. So that's so we can go back to this home and home birth, and because now hospital is trauma after trauma. I'm telling you, I got 2 C-section. We don't want to go there. It was really traumatic. So, but again, women don't go to choose the home birth because we are scared. We have stereotype in our mind. We don't understand. So when you don't understand, you're fearful. So you don't know. We don't know. We are not educated, and we don't know where to get the right information. Right information are not out there like that. It's not easy to get them. So that's why we're doing that work that we're doing, and we are very happy to have you and explaining to women so they can, at least have a thought about it, And that's how, with a thought, everything can unfold, and you never know. You can decide also to go that road. So my question will be, what are then the physical and mental preparation women should really do before home birth?
So one of the things that I always speak with women is that we need to educate ourselves. We need to ask questions. We need to ask questions also to ourselves, like, what do you want? Like, how do you feel in peace? How do you feel not stressed out? Like, where is your happy place? Like, how is your body? How are you feeling your body? Some women don't even understand their bodies. They don't even know their vaginas. They don't even can say that word. It's even like that, you know? So you need to understand your body. You need to understand how breastfeeding works, like what's normal, what's not, like what's a contraction, what's it gonna feel like, what means your water breaking, like all those things you want to make sure to understand and educate yourself in terms of everything prenatal, what's the normal during prenatal. And that's something that I work a lot with women to understand what they're doing, what their bodies are doing, what their babies are doing in each period of labor, and then of pregnancy, and then in labor, like how can labor usually start, what's normal, what's not, like what people do you want to have in your birth, like who's your birth team. Because if you're a person that you feel comfortable being left alone and like leave me alone and like let me do my thing, I know how to do this on my way, like leave me alone, just be there in case anything changes, then you need to verbalize that and say it. Hey, yes, I don't like touch, I prefer not to be touched. But there's also the case of women that need this support, like they need people there, they need people there cheering her on, they need someone there touching her, massaging her, helping her, talking to her. Like there's different ways of coping with pain. And then there's people that don't feel pain at all. So all of those things, we need to talk about them. You need to get prepared. You need to search for information. You need to decide if you want to give medications or babies or not, because we offer vitamin K or we offer erythromycin for the eyes. You also need to get prepared for when you go to the pediatrician. Do you want to vaccinate your kids? Don't you want to vaccinate them? How do you make that call? How do you understand if you want to do it or not? Like, where do I get good information if I want to vaccinate them? Why do I want to vaccinate them? Am I sure I want to do it? Like, have I done my research? And that's where people sometimes are like, can you tell me what to do? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you the options, but I'm never going to tell you what to do, because I understand that there's a responsibility in our part where we need to get all the info and make ourselves the decision. Like, I'm taking this decision because I've understood why I am doing it. And that's one of the things that we can't do this just because this other person did it. I want to do it because I really did my research and I made sure that this is what I want because X, Y, Z. So it's important that people and that families and that moms and then dads, they really get all the info that they can get and prepare yourself spiritually, emotionally. If you have a mom that has trauma because she has been raped before, usually that comes to her mind during labor, especially if you're in a hospital setting, because a lot of strangers are going to come in the room and stick their hand in there without your permission, even though the law states that you need to really give permission to them to do that. So if in labor you have a mom like that and she's wanting to do a home birth, we need to have that conversation. How do you feel about it? How can we do this in a way that you don't feel that you've been raped again? Like, how can we talk about it and you don't feel like this is triggering? So all those conversations, we need to get ready spiritually, emotionally, and not necessarily our spirituality is going to be the same. I can have my beliefs in that terms, and this one can have hers. So I'm going to be very respectful about that too, because we probably don't think the same theologically. It's fine. But at the same time, we need to get in the same page. It's like where we're going to put some boundaries and you're going to be all right. I'm going to be taking care of you medically, and we're going to be very respectful about that, at least in my case, right? I'm talking about my midwifery practice and how I do things. But usually most of the midwives are like that. They try to be very respectful in terms of like how that person's feeling, like their past, like what has happened before. And if they have had birth before, do they carry any trauma from that birth? How can we resolve that before labor? Because we don't want to go into labor with that trauma not being worked out and not having spoken about it. Like, why was it traumatizing? How can we make this different? What would you like to see different? And also talk about what could be an emergency, what could not be an emergency, and really know that not everything is beautiful. Sometimes there's emergency. Let's talk about them. Not to make you scared, but to make you aware. Like, probably this could be a possibility. It's 1 in a million, but it could happen, and you never know who's gonna go through that. So let's talk about it previously. If we need to transfer to the hospital and it's not an emergency, why could we need to transfer? Let's talk about it. If anything happens, like, let's have that conversation before labor. So all those conversations should be done before giving birth. And that's one of the ways to prepare. So for me, it's important. I know that sometimes when people have insurance, it's also money. It's like, well, I'm supposed to be here for 15 minutes and that's it, because that's what I'm going to be paid for. But at the same time, for me, a mom that's going to have a home birth, I want to really go into deep conversations, because I want to make sure that we're on the same page, and then I'm going to be able to help that mom. So probably Medicaid, it's going to pay me what, a 15-minute visit, but usually that's not what takes me to be up to see your mom. Usually I'm at a house between 1 hour. Sometimes I've been in a house 2 hours in a prenatal visit. And they only pay for 15 minutes. But for me, it's like, I need to have this conversation because I want to have a good outcome. And the only way to do that is talking, having a conversation, educating moms, having them get prepared, having them get a doula, because the doula are going to educate them too. Like, all those things, I always suggest mom, get a doula, get educated, ask all the questions, let's talk about it. And if I don't know something, okay, let's search for it. I'm gonna make sure that we can find an answer for that. Because again, I don't know everything. I'm like, there's things that I'm gonna learn in the way. But let's look for good information. Where can we find good information? Like, where can we get good information? And if I tell you something, I'm gonna invite you, go ahead and do your research. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I've learned. But maybe there's other things and we can learn together. So it's a process. We gotta do all the questions and prepare ourselves physically, eat well. Like, that's another thing. You want to have a healthy baby. You want to have a healthy birth. You gotta eat healthy. You gotta make sure that what you're feeding your body with and fueling your body with, it's good resources. Like, what are you eating? Are you exercising? What do you do for work? Like, is your work too stressful? Like, how can we make that better? Because we are an entire being. We're not just physical. We have other things that we need to take care of, and we need to talk about them and make sure that they're all aligned so that you have the better outcome in pregnancy and labor and postpartum too. Because postpartum, it's gonna be forever, right? So we also got to talk about postpartum. Who's going to be helping you? Who's going to feed your other kids if you have other kids, or for your family? Who's going to cook? Who's going to take care of you? Like, who's going to be there? Who's going to be that adult that's going to talk to you? Because you're going to be like, I need to talk to an adult and not a baby the entire 24 hours of the day. Like, who's gonna be that person who's going to keep me sane, that I'm going to be able to talk like an adult and like figure out if I'm feeling sad or if I'm feeling tired, who's going to help me? Like, all those conversations, we need to have them before labor.
I like, Selideth, really that you are encouraging to to educate yourself. Like, you see how much stress she gave on education, and also involving the fathers on educating, because most of us, I think, we just take labor and birth just for women only, and we don't educate the men, our husbands. And I think that's a big part of it, to involve your partner, because he's going to be there for you. Like you said, most of the time we just leave with our husbands, and if we don't have a sister or mom or a friend coming over, he's going to be the one that support her during the labor. Sometimes husbands act as doulas as well, to help you through the labor period. and then he's going to be the one helping you with the baby at night. Obviously your mom is not going to sleep with you, you know. So I think educating our husbands is a big part of it as well, like you said, you know.
Like everyone has to be on the same page, and also that sometimes carries trauma too. Like if they had previous birth, maybe in another relationship, or maybe with that same mom, like they carry their own traumas too. They also had like they need to know what's happening, and they need to understand also what's normal, what's not, because they're either gonna make you more nervous, or they're gonna really be there like, okay, we have spoken about this, we know about it, and this is the way that it should go, and we are all on the same page, and it's not taking them by surprise and like figuring out, okay, so what do I do now, you know? So everyone, whoever's gonna be on the birth is your birth team, so you gotta make sure that everyone is on the same page.
And I like it, you know, because whenever you have a visit with me, and then I share what happened during the visit with my husband, and he's like, "Oh my God, I think I've heard about birth and C-sections and hospitals and natural deliveries more than I ever heard in my entire life." he's like, he's like, "I'm gonna be a doctor myself soon because you're telling me everything." I said, "Then when? When I'm gonna tell you?" You know, the guys, they usually busy. They're with work. They don't want to hear all this lady stuff. But I just share with him. I said, "You have to know." Anyway, and then you know, guys, they usually the husbands, they get lost if you don't talk to them or you don't prepare them before the labor. They don't know what to expect. So they see their woman in pain, and she's like all in the weird positions, and she's screaming sometimes or breathing heavily, and they start panicking, and they start running from one corner to another, you know, taking a towel, taking a plate, and they don't know what to do, you know. So it becomes like a chaos in the house because they're just like lost.
I feel like women should pay attention. Most of the women, like she said before, are very disconnected. You know, when we get pregnant, we just know that we're going to give birth, and we don't organize. We have 9 months, but we don't organize it. Like she said, there is so much that comes in. You have to make sure it's like a team, like a preparation, like a football team, soccer players, basketball team, that you have to prepare everyone, your husband, your family, what kind of help you have, yourself, educate yourself. And some of our, you know, in the women, like back home and other countries, we don't even want to talk about certain subject. Like she said, even this word vagina is a problem. Yeah, that's true. What she said is really, she knows what she's talking about. And I know that it's a big problem. Even to go to the hospital, they will feel it's not something, you know, they don't want to do it. But they are unhealthy. And it's not good because they give birth in very bad condition, and they are very depressed forever, like she said. And that's true. I have friends that I can witness that are in very bad condition, and it affects the whole entire family. Children that are vulnerable, that doesn't know anything, will pay the price the first, because there will be a rejection. Some mom, because of the trauma they go through, they reject their own baby. You know that, right? And it will be very traumatic. The whole thing will be just something very negative. We assume women come with a hard drive that she knows already everything. Those things are natural. No, it's like learning how to cook, we have to learn how to be women. We have to educate ourselves how to be a real woman. You know, and I think we just let stuff fall on us and just expect whatever happen. So that's the mindset. And we should push to change that mindset, you know.
Yeah, you know, another thing, I was researching another day before the labor, you know, what we could do. That was your original question, the physical and psychological preparation. And I know Selideth mentioned a lot of the psychological and educational preparation, and I was researching more physical preparation for the labor for myself. And one of the things that I found out they recommend to do, it's perinatal massage to prepare your vagina, because it has to stretch big, you know, that it never stretched before. If you never gave birth before, it has to stretch very wide, and that's usually the most painful part of the birth, and you can also tear if it's not stretched properly. So I was thinking about perinatal massage, and I'm like, how many women are even shy, like you said, from saying the word vagina, but in perinatal massage, you actually have to massage and stretch the vagina yourself. So, like they said, you can put two fingers on the bottom part of your vagina and just put some olive oil and make like half a circle moves to stretch it down to your rectum. And then in some cases, when you become so big, when you're like 8, 9 months, that's when you have to start doing it. You cannot reach it yourself. You have to ask your partner to do that. And I'm just thinking of all this shyness in the society and are not able to even talk about it or think about it. How would they do it?
Yeah, we're not educated at all. Like I remember even the massage for the breastfed, you know how to prepare because like African, we tend to have those crack on the nipples, you know, because of the because of the breastfeeding, and it will dry easily. You know, you have dry skin, it will dry easily, and it create a lot of pain for the moms, you know. But they say before the birth, you can start. I was reading some stuff that you can, you know, start preparing that and trying to massage your own self. And women are very disconnected from their own self, very much so, very much disconnected. Like she said it really the right way. She said they don't even know how to pronounce the word. They don't know nothing. They don't try to understand. Some of them, they get overwhelmed when you're trying to educate them, because they don't want to know. It's like too much to deal with. Oh, I don't want to know those things. This is your body, and you will pay the price for the last 10 years because you will be traumatized. You will traumatize your kid. You will have problem in your couple, your husband, and this is all because of this little thing that you have neglected. So those things are very much important. We should educate ourselves more and more. Even at school, when I was a child, we used to have courses like classes. We call it puériculture in French. Like it was talking about the womanhood, you know, some things. But nowadays, I don't know if they have those things anymore at school to prepare a young lady to understand better their body and what's going on with you. Because this is a process, and every time you have to learn. I'm 42 now. My hormones are kicking back and forth. I don't know. Maybe I'm going pre-menopause or something. So I pause, and I have to educate myself. And that's the woman. We have stages in our life that we have to prepare for every stage, you know. And we are not concerned with things. We're just gonna go to a corporate who's gonna fix everything and send us back home. But hey, you know, it's business. Corporation are business. Simple as that.
Okay, Farida, I think you had a last question for today to Selideth.
Yes. The last question will be then, why should we choose home birth over hospital birth? Or at least recommend it, you know?
So one of the things that I always tell moms is home birth is not for everyone. Why? Because as I said at the beginning, one of the things that we want to make sure is that this mom is a low risk mom. Okay. She doesn't have any other medical conditions. For example, if you have a mom that's struggling with high blood pressure, this is something that could potentially be very dangerous during labor. So we want to make sure that we are in a place where she can get help in case that she has some complications because of her blood pressure, you know? So things like that, we want to make sure, and again, her labs, that everything is normal and healthy. So another thing is a mom that is deciding whether to be at the hospital or not. If you're a mom that you feel safe at the hospital, like you've done all the research, you've educated yourself, and you have done all the research, and you just feel safe at the hospital because that's what you do. Like that's what you feel safe at, then have the baby at the hospital. because it's a matter of where you feel safe. If you're not gonna feel safe at home, then don't do it, because again, we are an entire being. If you are stressed because you're at home and you can't concentrate in what's happening in your body during labor, then that's not going to help you have a baby without any emergency, you know? So the other thing for me, why did I choose home birth? Because I did have a baby in the hospital, the first one, and then the second one I decided to have at home. So why I decided, first of all, one of the things that I'm very concerned about, and things that are very important for me as a human being, is children. So I believe that the only way that we can change the world is if our children are born in peace. And sometimes at the hospital, it's so violent. Like what's happening in the hospital is so violent that even from birth, we're going into a violent environment. And I was like, I want to have a peaceful birth in the peace of my home, with the bacteria that we already have at home, with the people that I know that love me and want to make sure that I'm healthy and that my baby is healthy. I want to make sure that whoever is on the same page. I really learned about myself and my body through my pregnancy and my labor. And I really wanted to make a change in how we're being born, because I don't think it's fair how things are going in the hospital a lot of the times. Not always, but a lot of the times. I always say, if you're going to the hospital, you better not know anything. Just do whatever they tell you. Because if you do as you're told at the hospital, everything will be okay. Why? Because you're naive. You don't know what's happening. You don't know better. So if you don't know better, then you just go with the flow and just let it be. But really, the consequences are our children. They're growing so disattached from parents. Like, when you are able to breastfeed your baby, like, you're giving them so much because of all the bacteria that you're giving to that baby, and like helping that baby develop a good immune system, but also like the type of relationship that you're going to have with that baby, because that baby's going to feel safe. They know that their mom is there. They cry, their mom is going to breastfeed them, and my mom is going to be there when I need her. And some breastfed babies are like too attached to their parents. No, they're very individuals, because they feel safe. If you feel safe, you know that you can go, but whenever you need your parents, you're going to come back and say, hey, I need you. And they're going to be there for you, because you understood that you can come back and they're going to be there, you know? So it's so many things. Like, at home, you're there, as I said, you have your own bacteria. If you have other kids, you can stay there with your kids. You don't have to leave them and see who's going to take care of them. You're there with them. The other thing is, like, as less interventions as you have in labor, better the outcomes. So this is what's happening a lot of times in the hospital. You go in for an induction. Let's say that it's an induction that is not medically necessary. So you go in for an induction. They start Pitocin, or they break your water, or they do whatever. They start their thing, how they do things. Then you're attached to a lot of machines. You can't move around. You can walk around. You can do whatever you want to do, because you need to be stuck to a machine. You cannot eat. You can't move. And then, like, your body needs to move in labor. Your body needs needs food in labor. You need to do normal, right? And then the hospital, it stops being normal, because you can't move, you can't eat, and then you're stuck in an environment that you don't know, with strange people, cold, with a lot of light. Like, it's a lot of things happening that you don't see a cat giving birth, like, in front of everyone. What they do, they hide. Or a dog, they go and hide, because they need that space for themselves. We're mammals too, so we need our space. So there's a lot of benefits of having a home birth, and I can go on and on and on. And at the same time, I do say that we do need hospitals. Why? Because sometimes there's a need for a C-section, because sometimes that's what needs to happen, right? But if I go to an induction and it's not medically needed, they start doing things on me. That baby's not ready to be born because it's still not time, but they're pressuring that baby to come out. They start Pitocin. The Pitocin keeps going up and up and up. And what's going to happen a lot of times is that at some point, baby's going to have D cells, which is that the heart rate is not good. So then they're gonna come running. Hey, we're gonna do a C-section emergency. Yes, it's an emergency now, but we could have avoided the emergency if we did not pressure that baby to come out when it's not time yet and it's not medically needed. So then you have a mom who has a C-section, and now it's like, okay, now it's a part of breastfeeding. How can we do it? Then you don't have personnel in the hospital that's gonna help that mom breastfeed and learn like how to do it with a big operation in her belly, like in pain. Now I have to breastfeed. I can't even walk. I'm in pain. Like it's a snowball, and everything gets worse and worse and worse. And then you have a postpartum. You have a sad mom. She didn't want a C-section, and now she's stuck with a C-section with a newborn, and even wasn't able to breastfeed. And now you feel bad because you weren't able to breastfeed your baby and give them that. And it's like it's a mess. And then you're depressed, and then we can go on and on and on about the things that happen later. So we want to make sure that our children and our grandchildren and the rest of the people being born be born in a good environment, peaceful environment, like where we feel safe. And that it's really what's gonna change our world. Like if we want peace, we really need to work from the beginning. Like what are we doing during our pregnancy? What are we doing in labor? Like what are we doing postpartum? It's something that we really need to think about and really work towards it, and like really understand what's going on, see where we can be better and make changes. And the change comes first of knowing the info, and second, putting attention on things that really are going to benefit our future generations. And sometimes we just do things because they told me how to do them before. They told me, okay, go to the hospital. That's what's normal. But we don't ask questions like, why do I have to go to the hospital? When did this started? Like, when did we started having babies in the hospital? Why? And those answers are going to be like, oh, so now it's different because now I have water in my house. I have electricity in my house. I have the option of having someone being with me there who's going to take care of me. And again, it's a lot of misinformation, and we just need to get the word out of there. And I always say, it's like, I'm just one, and hospitals and the other thing is like, I know that OBs are not doing things just to make things worse. It's also how they are educated. A lot of OBs, they don't see a home birth in their education. They don't have the experience of a non-medicated birth. They don't know. They haven't seen that. So if they don't know, then they're just going to do what they have been taught and what they have learned. So I love when an OB is open to go ahead and go to a home birth and see the setting and see what we bring to the birth and ask questions and understand that women have been given birth like forever. You know, no one told us how to do it, and we're here and we're alive. So, I mean, I believe that we do know where our bodies really are created to give birth. We just need to really let them be, and just be there in cases that really needs our intervention. So again, hospitals are needed, OBs are needed, but also it's important that they get the opportunity to see a non-medicated birth, a physiological birth. Like, let the body do its thing without your hands in there, without you intervening, and just let the mom be. And you're going to see how the outcomes are going to be so different and beautiful. And it's like, this is how it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be violent. It shouldn't be stressful. Yes, probably it's going to be painful. And I say probably because I've seen moms that give birth and I don't see any pain. It's like nothing is happening. So again, everyone has different pain toleration, but again, I think that everyone, even us as midwives, OBs, hospitals, everyone should get all the info before stating like home birth is not safe. I think that there's ways of having safe home births. We just need to get the education, and if something comes up, then we have a plan if we need to move to the hospital. But we can't state like home birth is not safe, hospital is the only safe option. Because a lot of times hospitals are giving a lot of pain to a lot of people. So are they really safe? Well, it's going to depend on the type of person and the type of medical needs that person has.
Well, thank you, Selideth, for all the information. It was really beneficial today, and I hope a lot of mamas will benefit from it. And everything you said is absolutely true. I appreciate you for being truthful today. And please let us know, the mamas who will be listening to you, how they can contact you in case if they want to get more information or if they want to hire you as their midwife. What would be your contact?
Yeah, they can search for me. My practice is called New Melody Birth. They can search for me there. I usually work in Orlando, Central Florida area, Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Poinciana, Orlando. They can reach me by phone. My phone is 787-360-9571. They can Google me. They can search for me in social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of those accounts. Or even through this, I think, podcast, maybe you can put the info there and they can find me through my webpage too. www.newmelodybirth.com.
Sure, definitely. I will include all your information in the podcast description, and I appreciate you being here with us today. And you were listening to Women's Rights Are Human Rights. And thank you, and we'll see each other next week.